Hi, all enthusiasts out there. Uh, Today I'm going to sort of shift uh, to India, right? And I'm going back to probably a poem that you'll do early in your grade 11 class, and all of us have read uh, this lady that you see in the background, Sarojini Naidu. Somewhere or the other, some poem like the Bangle Sellers or the Bazaars of Hyderabad, um, a veritable storehouse of beautiful poetry with the backdrop of the Indian setting. Yes, and Sarojini Naidu, if you see the years here, 13th February 1879 to 2nd March 1949, she was a part of the Indian national movement, like we all know, uh, born into a family in Hyderabad. She grew up to study in King's College, London, and she moved beyond her academic life into a political life. Joined Mahatma Gandhi, was part of the Dandi March, became the first woman president of the Indian National Congress, and then, of course, the governor of Uttar Pradesh when India got freedom. So. Uh, and what's most important, she earned the 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 title of the Nightingale of India. Yes, for her beautiful poetry. And the poem that is included in our course is The Gift of India. Yes, and that is on. Those who are using the text that we usually use, Gift of India is on page 14 of your text. Yes, I would like you all to get your text before we start. But before we start off with the poem per se, it's very important for you to know that this the entire setting of this poem is based on the life of the unknown Indian soldiers who were a part of the British Indian Army during the First World War. Remember, when the First World War started, we were still a colony of the British. So I don't think we had any choice as to whether we would join the war or not. But Indian soldiers were fought alongside their British counterparts. They fought alongside the armies from the other Commonwealth nations like Australia, New Zealand, Canada. Yes, and they were. I mean, it's supposed to be about the numbers were unbelievable, like the number of soldiers who lived and who went to the war, who died. Um but there are quite a few um, uh, epitaphs and memorials now built, but but we really don't know how many lost their lives, and they're all unknown soldiers because there are unknown epitaphs of them across. And when we are talking of these soldiers and we are talking where they went, remember, we are going to come across countries as far as East Africa, Belgium, France, Mesopotamia, Egypt, Palestine, even the Sinai Peninsula. Yes, so they fought all over Europe, Africa, and they were. What is important for us to remember is they mostly remained the unsung soldiers. So probably this is what Sarojini Naidu wishes to highlight in this poem. Because remember, if I'm giving you the political scenario as a backdrop, at that point in time, Indian soldiers joined the British Army. Yes, remember the time, early 1914 to 1918, that was the time. So what was the understanding? Okay, Indian soldiers will fight for the British, but when we come back, when the war ends, British government should grant us self-rule. That is what was expected, and that is what was what was the understanding at that point in time. Yes, and then when war ended in 1918, not only were our soldiers forgotten, but what did we get after that? War ended in 1918. What did we get after that? If I take you back to history, we got the Rowlatt Act, we got the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. We didn't get self-rule, right? So probably that made the sacrifice more painful. What did they sacrifice for? Yes, they served, they did their duty. That's it. But I'm sure there was this hope that our sacrifice will then lead to the freedom of our country, which unfortunately did not happen. So here we are talking of loss of uh, uh, if you look at a number, I don't think there are different numbers given by different. I actually went through a lot of sites and I found the different numbers given by different organizations, but we know that average there were about 1.7 lakh uh, animals used. There were 67 lakh soldiers, out of which we have no idea how many died. Their numbers, I'm not worried about numbers. It's just that even if one soldier died, that was a sacrifice. Even if that soldier remained unnamed, we need to recognize them. And that is exactly what Sarojini Naidu wishes to say. But in this poem, The Gift of India. But what is also important is I went through quite a lot of essays, and there was one a quote which sort of, I've written it down. It was written by Sir Claude Auchinleck. I'm not very sure whether I've got the pronunciation correct, but he was the commander-in-chief of the Indian Army, and he says Britain couldn't have come through the wars if they hadn't had the Indian Army. Britain couldn't have come through the wars if they hadn't had the Indian Army. So that was the kind of indomitable spirit displayed by the Indian soldiers who were fighting for their British masters, because we were then a colony, right? So giving you this backdrop, I would like to show you, before we go into the poem per se, I would like to show you a few images which will give you an understanding of the kind of sacrifices, the kind of work that these British soldiers, Indian soldiers, for fighting with the British Army. Here, if you see, you have a picture of the Indian soldiers, a part of the British Army. They're all sitting there. Can you see it? Yes, Indian soldiers, part of the British Army. Then you will have Indian troops. You have, Indian troops, and this will be reflected in your poem, because this is Indian troops as they are welcomed into Flanders. Flanders was this, and the war that was fought in Flanders was in Belgium. Yes, that was the venue of the First World War. So here we are talking about the Indian troops as they were welcomed into Flanders. If you see this is the photograph that I wanted you all to have a look at. Then you have the Sikh soldiers, huge contribution made by them, the Sikh soldiers. One second. Where are the Sikh soldiers? I'll just show it to you. Yes. Okay, here we are. The Sikh soldiers, as this, they're posing for the photograph. These are all actual images, please, from different archives that I went through and I collected. The Sikh soldiers who were a part of the Indian Army, the contribution was invaluable. And then, of course, if we look at this, if you see, this is a memorial. This is a very old photograph, so probably it's shining a bit. This is a memorial, but if you see, it shows the 36 Sikhs, Sepoy Badan Singh, 45th Rattare Sikhs, Sepoy Bawa Singh, Sepoy Jagat Singh. Then you have the Burma Military Police, Havildar Harakman Rai, Lance Nayak, Chitang Limbu, Rifleman Hastia Thapa, Jarsing Thapa. So you see, I mean, Assam Military Police. So there was nowhere that our Indian soldiers were not represented. From every part of our country, we had the soldiers being represented. From Punjab, from Assam, from Burma, which was then a part of India. And you had the regiment from every part of our country. Now, next is, okay, if you look at this, this is a very important slide. If you see what's given here, India would provide 1/10 of the manpower of the British war effort, more than 1.27 million men. This I've taken from a BBC site, so I'm hoping that the numbers are more or less, I mean, the closest that I thought I should share with you. India would provide 1/10 of the manpower of the British war effort. 1.27 million men. Yes. Most of them unnamed. Yes. Unnamed soldiers. Yes. And finally, of course, oh, there's a lovely photograph here. If you see this, it is the last cavalry campaign in Egypt. You will find this reference also in the poem. That's why whatever images I brought in are direct reference to some of the images that you find in Sarojini Naidu's poem, The Gift of India. And this is the last cavalry campaign by the Indian soldiers. And remember, we supplied nearly 1.7 lakhs horses and mules. 1.7 lakhs animals were also supplied by India. Horses and mules. Mules to carry the load, and horses are part of the cavalry charge. Yes. And finally, this was a picture which is, this is so painful to see. If you see this, this is an epitaph. This is an epitaph, and you have words actually written in Gurmukhi. Yes. Here lies the unknown soldier. Here lies the unknown soldier. Given their lives, yes, strewn like, you will find it in the poem, they are strewn like blossoms all over Europe, all over parts of Africa, Egypt, yes. So these are the epitaphs of the unknown soldier. Here lies the unknown soldier, yes. So, yes, quite chilling these images are, but it also tells you about the contribution. So do not forget 1.27 million men. And those are the men that Sarojini Naidu addresses in this poem, The Gift of India. 1.27 million men. That is what these are the people that she is referring to when she is talking about the gift of India, right? So, Sarojini Naidu, we are going to do The Gift of India. I hope you've liked the images. You can always go back to seeing it once you're working on the video. So let us now come to the poem, The Gift of India. I would like you first, very important, please take the poem and mark out the lines, please. It's very important for us to know to number the lines. So please use a pen or pencil, number the lines. There are 24 lines. Yes. So if you number it, it's easy when we go in for a discussion on the poem, right? Yes. I'm giving you a second to just number the lines. Yeah, got it? All right. So remember what the image I showed you of the epitaph, the unknown soldier, known unto God. Whom are they? The only entity who knows them. Yes, because they are unknown. We don't know their identity. They went and fought far off places, never came back home. So they are known unto God. Yes, and these are the soldiers who were the gift of India. India gifted much more than material things. When we look at gift, we're looking at something which is material, which is an object, right? But Sarojini Naidu here is talking about human lives, which have been gifted to the British masters, right? And if you see, the poem opens with a rhetorical question. It is rhetoric. Is there aught you need that my hands withhold, rich gifts of raiment or grain or gold? You. Who is the you here? The British masters, the British rulers, the masters. Is there anything that you have not taken from us? Is there anything that we have not given you? We have given you everything. And India was known as a land of the best cotton, the best grains that were produced. It was rich. We had the best gold, the jewels. That we were a veritable storehouse of all treasures. So, is there anything that we have not given you? What more would you want from us? Yes, you've taken away. Our economy is in shambles. You've taken away our best cotton, and you're producing goods in the mills of Lancaster and Manchester. Yes, you have taken away our food grains. We are having famine here in India. You have taken away our gold. You have taken away our wealth. Yes. Is there anything more that you need that we have not given you? Yes. Whatever you've asked, whenever you've asked, we've given you everything. Lo, there's an exclamation. I have flung to the east and the west priceless treasures torn from my breast, and yielded the sons of my stricken womb to the drumbeats of the duty, the savors of doom. Yes. Apart from all the material things, what have I given you? I've given you, India. India has given you its priceless treasures torn from the breast and yielded the sons of my stricken womb. Children, sons have been taken away from their mothers. So here the womb is you have the dual image. You have the literal mother who is sacrificed their own children, and you have Mother India who is given the sons to fight for the British masters. So and our Indian soldiers have gone east and west. We are looking at Europe. We are looking at Africa. We are looking at different parts of the world. Yes, and these are and they are no comparison to the gold, the jewels, the grain, and the cotton, the cloth. These are our people, our children, whom we have sacrificed for your war. It was a war that you were fighting. Yes. To the drumbeats of the duty, the sabers of doom. Very important imagery here, please. Drumbeats of duty and sabers of doom. Drumbeats of duty. It was because we were a colony. We bowed down to what our duty was. Because you were a master, you said, we need soldiers to fight. Fine. Our sense of duty said, of course, we should not let our masters down. Go forth, young boys, go fight for the British masters. So we were dutiful. We were obedient. We sent out our children to fight for you. And to the drumbeats of the duty, the sabers of doom. But while we were doing our duty, what was the end result? We fell to the swords of extinction. We died. Our young children died. Yes, because war is from the beginning, any war that is fought is doomed for those who fight the war on the battlefield. The infantry, the cavalry, the mules, the horses, and the scores of our young sons who have gone to fight. For them it is doomed. They do not live to see, come back to their homes and to see their family and friends again. But they responded to the call of duty, and that is extremely important that the poet has mentioned here. to the drum beats of duty. Drum beats, naturally, that's the entire atmosphere of war. When you have the musicians playing the pipes, the bugle and the drums beating, yes, calling the young people to join the war. We joined the war, yes, but at the end of it, from the drum beats, it's the swords of destruction and death that we sent our soldiers out. So what more do you want from us? We have given our very children. Yes. Is there anything more that we can give? No. Nothing is more precious than human life. And for a mother here, Mother India, nothing is more precious than her children. And we have given our children to you. Yes. Yes, so these are our gifts, right? Now, suppose the first question is, what more do you want? I mean, we have given you our children. If I want to ask another question here, I can say now, how have you received our gifts? What have you done with the gifts that we have given you? Have you returned them to us in the same form and shape as we gave it to you? Yes. I know we didn't. There are certain gifts that can't be returned, but here we are talking of human lives. So, as a mother, I want to know, how have you received these gifts? Have you looked after our gifts? Have you looked after the gifts that we have received? Forget about returning it. Have you looked after them? Have you cared for them? Have you tended to them? That's the question. So, answer to that is, we have done till line 1 to 6. The answer to that is, how have the gift been received? Gathered like pearls in their alien graves, silent they sleep by the Persian waves, scattered like shells on Egyptian sands, they lie with pale brows and brave broken hands. They are strewn like blossoms mowed down by chance on the blood-brown meadows of Flanders and France. Can he measure the grief of the tears I weep, or compass the woe of the watch I keep? So how have the gifts been received? Broken, killed, destroyed, annihilated. Yes. They are no longer men on feet, they are bodies, unnamed bodies strewn in their alien graves. Alien, naturally, they are fighting in foreign lands. That's why the graves are alien. But you see each of the similes here, the comparison, very important. Check the 3 images. They're gathered like pearls. Yes? They're scattered like shells. And they're strewn like blossoms. So you have line 7 gathered like pearls, line 9 scattered like shells, and line 11 strewn like blossoms. All things that are beautiful, all things that are precious, all things that are warm and soft and so very priceless. Yes, pearls, shells, and flowers. All things, like bright and beautiful and precious. Our children, what are they like now? They are strewn. Now, I showed you, remember, the images of the different parts of the world that our soldiers were. So the first, Persian waves. So they were fighting in Persia, right? So next to the rivers, yes, Bosphorus probably. They're gathered like pearls. So from the waters of the seas, we get these priceless pearls. So our soldiers are like pearls, lying on these unnamed graves in the banks of the Persian rivers. They're scattered like shells on the Egyptian sands. They fought in Egypt. The last cavalry charge, remember I showed you the photographs of, like shells. Bright, beautiful, shining, but they're scattered. They're lost forever. We can't gather these shells. They're broken. They are in pieces. You know, when you go to a sea beach, you see these shells lying all over. Yes. So they are like the shells lying all over the beach, scattered in pieces. We can't gather them. They're lost forever. They're lying in blended with the sand on the beaches of these alien lands that our soldiers have gone to. Yes. They lie with pale brows and brave, broken hands. Pale brows, pale, why pale? Life is ebbed out of them. There is no life. You see the alliteration, the constant alliteration that the poet has used. Brave, broken hands. They fought till the end. They did not let down their British masters. Remember, I go back to the quote. Britain could not have come through the wars if they hadn't had the Indian army. So these are the brave, broken hands that we are talking about. Yes, they are brave, but they are broken. They are dead and gone. Next, they are strewn like blossoms mown down by chance. They are strewn like flowers, on the fields of Flanders. Yes, and mown down by chance. Chance. Why chance? This was not our war. We happened to be a colony of the British. So we were forced to send our soldiers. So it was the accident of time when the First World War took place. An accident of time that actually led our own young men to go and fight an alien war, being a colony. So on the blood brown, again the alliteration, brave, broken, blood brown meadows of Flanders and France. So here we are talking of, there were two major battles. The Neuve Chapelle, that's in France. That was the Neuve Chapelle battle, was where 67 lakhs Indian soldiers, I think, were involved, and most of them died. Yes, the Battle of Neuve Chapelle, that's in France. And you have the Ypres. That was another battle that was fought. And of course, you had Flanders, which is in Belgium. And they've given a number there, which I went through and said 410,000 soldiers or something like that laid down their lives. So we are looking at fields of the Neuve Chapelle, Flanders, Ypres, where our soldiers, what are they now? They are strewn, their bodies are strewn on the fields like blossoms. Again, the comparison to beautiful flowers. What do flowers do? They add to the fragrance of our lives. So these are the soldiers that gave life to the British Army, because without our sons, Britain would not have won this war. Yes. And then comes the next question. So remember this. Our Indian soldiers are priceless sons, are like pearls, like shells, like flowers, scattered, buried on foreign lands. Yes. So what is the question that one is asking? Can he measure the grief of the tears I weep, or compass the woe of the watch I keep? Again, alliterative. So this is the mothers. How does one measure? How does one measure the immense sorrow of the Indian mothers whose sons have died, young sons have died? Yes. How do you expect our mothers, how do you expect Mother India to cope with this unprecedented loss of life? How can this loss be ever compensated? Yes. So, can you measure this grief? Can grief and sorrow ever be measured? Can a mother be consoled? Not just, Mother India is representative of the lakhs of mothers who have given up their children. Yes. So, can he measure the grief of the tears I weep? I, Mother India. Mother India, which is symbolic of all the mothers who have sent their boys to fight the war and they've never come back because they are scattered all over the plains and riverbeds of the west and east, wherever they've been asked to go. Or compass the woe of the watch I keep. Or compass the woe of the watch. Woe of the watch. Look at the alliteration. What is the woe of the, what is the sadness? What are the mothers doing? They are watching for the return. They are waiting. They are waiting to see their sons come back. And you know, this is a wait that is in vain. The wait itself is highlighting the tragedy because it is a wait that is only going to end in sorrow because nobody is going to come back. So can you measure this sorrow, not just sending them, but also the sorrow of waiting for someone who is not going to ever come back? How can you then compensate for this pain that the Mother India and the numerous mothers as represented in the figure of Mother India is undergoing, has undergone? So from lines 1 to 14 is what we complete today. Yes? So I would like you to go through this, underline the word meanings, write whatever you've understood in your own words, and then I shall start off from lines 15 to 24 in the next class, complete it, and move on to a discussion of the general layout of the poem and how to attempt the questions that will be asked from Sarojini Naidu's The Gift of India. Hope you had a good session. I shall see you very soon. Till then, take care, stay safe. See you.